Picture this, you're standing in a modern grocery store staring at expensive vacuum-sealed jerky that promises a 2-year shelf life. Meanwhile, deep in the Canadian Subarctic, Cree families have been preserving moose meat for 5 full years, using nothing but smoke, hide, and ancient wisdom passed down through countless generations. This isn't folklore, it's verified fact that's revolutionizing how survival experts think about food storage. Why modern methods fall short. Here's the jaw-dropping reality. While our best modern jerky, even vacuum-sealed and chemically treated, starts losing quality after 12 months and becomes questionable after 24 months, traditional Cree moose hide smoking creates meat that remains nutritious and delicious for 3 to 5 years without any refrigeration whatsoever. Food preservation specialists are scrambling to understand how the Cree nation achieved what our modern technology still can't match. The secret lies in a smoking technique so sophisticated that wilderness survival schools across North America now teach these exact methods because they simply work better than anything we've invented. Masters of subarctic survival, the plains and woodland Cree peoples of Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta didn't just survive in one of Earth's harshest environments. They thrived. Imagine dealing with temperature swings from scorching plus 30 degrees Celsius summers to bone-crushing minus 40 degrees Celsius winters, where a single mistake in food preservation could mean starvation for your entire family. In this unforgiving subarctic landscape, the Cree developed food preservation techniques that guaranteed year-round nutrition security. No grocery stores, no freezers, no backup plans, just pure ingenuity and deep understanding of natural processes. The revolutionary technique. What makes Cree moose hide smoking so extraordinary? It's not just about hanging meat over a fire. This is a precise science involving specific wood combinations that create the perfect smoke chemistry, specially prepared moose hide wrapping that controls moisture and airflow, temperature control methods that prevent spoilage while maximizing preservation, timing sequences that ensure complete preservation without overdrying. Picture skilled Cree hands expertly wrapping perfectly smoked meat in prepared moose hide, the rich aroma of carefully selected wood filling the air as smoke rises from traditional structures that have fed families through the harshest winters imaginable. Modern experts are taking notice. Professional wilderness guides and survival instructors worldwide are abandoning modern freeze-drying methods in favor of traditional Cree techniques. Why? Because when you're leading expeditions in remote locations, you need food preservation that actually works. I've tested every modern preservation method available, explains wilderness survival instructor Sarah Mitchell, who now exclusively uses Cree smoking techniques for her backcountry expeditions. Nothing comes close to the reliability and nutritional retention of traditional hide smoking. My students are amazed when they taste meat that's been preserved for years and still tastes fresh. Perfect for modern challenges. This ancient wisdom isn't just historical curiosity, it's incredibly relevant for today's challenges. Preppers seeking reliable long-term food storage without electricity, off-grid communities needing sustainable preservation methods, outdoor enthusiasts wanting lightweight, nutritious trail food. Emergency preparedness. Experts planning for extended power outages, homesteaders reducing dependence on industrial food systems. What you'll master today. By the end of this video, you'll completely understand how to identify and prepare the right materials using authentic traditional methods, the exact smoking process that creates 5-year preservation temperature and timing secrets that prevent spoilage, traditional storage techniques that maintain quality for years, how to adapt these methods for modern situations while respecting their cultural origins. The science behind the success. Here's what's fascinating. Modern food scientists studying Cree preservation methods have discovered that the combination of specific smoke compounds, controlled moisture levels, and hide wrapping creates a preservation environment that's actually superior to many industrial techniques. The natural antimicrobial properties of certain wood smoke, combined with the breathable yet protective qualities of properly prepared moose hide, create conditions that prevent bacterial growth while maintaining nutritional value far longer than modern alternatives, a living tradition. It's crucial to understand that these aren't lost techniques. The Cree Nation continues to maintain and practice this traditional knowledge today. This preservation method represents thousands of years of refinement and innovation by peoples who understood their environment with remarkable sophistication. We approach this knowledge with deep respect for its cultural origins and acknowledge that these techniques belong to the Cree peoples, who continue to be the rightful guardians of this traditional wisdom. The journey ahead. You're about to discover why wilderness survival experts consider Cree moose hide smoking the gold standard of food preservation. You'll learn techniques that sustained entire communities through subarctic winters and continue to outperform modern technology. But to truly understand why Cree moose hide smoking works so perfectly, we need to journey back to the subarctic wilderness that forged these ingenious food preservation innovations, a landscape that demanded nothing less than perfection in food storage techniques. Masters of the boreal forest, to understand why Cree moose hide smoking became the world's most advanced food preservation technique, we must first appreciate the incredible environment that shaped it. The Plains Cree and Woodland Cree peoples developed their sophisticated preservation methods across the vast boreal forests of Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta, a landscape so challenging that only the most ingenious survival technologies could ensure human survival. The Plains Cree, masters of the parkland regions where forest meets prairie, faced different challenges than their Woodland Cree relatives who lived deeper in the dense boreal forests. Yet both groups shared one critical reality: surviving 8-month winters where temperatures plummet to -40°C and hunting becomes nearly impossible required absolute perfection in food preservation. The archaeology of ancient innovation. Recent archaeological discoveries have completely changed how we understand Cree food preservation sophistication. At sites across Saskatchewan and Manitoba, researchers have uncovered smoking pit structures dating back over 8,000 years. These aren't simple fire pits. They're carefully engineered preservation facilities that prove ancient Cree peoples weren't just surviving. They were practicing advanced food science. Dr. Patricia Kelly, an archaeologist specializing in indigenous food systems, explains, when we examine these ancient smoking structures, we see evidence of sophisticated airflow control, temperature regulation, and even what appears to be specialized areas for different stages of the preservation process. This wasn't basic survival, this was engineering. The archaeological evidence reveals smoking structures with stone-lined chambers, carefully positioned air channels, and designated areas for different preservation stages. Carbon dating of charcoal remains shows these techniques were continuously refined over thousands of years, with each generation building upon previous innovations. Environmental forces. Driving innovation. The subarctic environment that the Cree called home was unforgiving in ways that modern people struggle to comprehend. Imagine your family's survival depending entirely on your ability to preserve enough meat to last from October through May, 8 full months, when fresh hunting becomes extremely difficult or impossible. Winter temperatures regularly drop below -30°C, making travel dangerous and game scarce. Summer brought its own challenges. Temperatures could soar above 30°C, creating perfect conditions for meat spoilage if preservation wasn't absolutely perfect. The brief autumn hunting season became a race against time to harvest and preserve enough protein to sustain entire families through the harsh months ahead. This environmental pressure created what food historians call preservation perfectionism, techniques that had to work flawlessly every single time because failure meant starvation. The seasonal survival cycle. Understanding Cree, meat. Preservation requires grasping their sophisticated seasonal cycle. Spring meant breaking winter camps and beginning the complex process of following game migration patterns. Summer brought fishing, berry gathering, and preparation for the critical autumn hunt. But it was during the brief, intense autumn hunting season that meat preservation skills determined family survival. When a hunting party successfully brought down a massive moose, sometimes weighing over 600 kilograms, every member of the community sprang into action. The meat had to be processed, smoked, and properly preserved within days, or the entire harvest would spoil. There were no second chances and no backup grocery stores. Elder Mary Sinclair of the Cumberland House Cree Nation explains, "My grandmother taught me that every child learned smoking by age 12 because our family's winter survival depended on perfect preservation. You couldn't afford to make mistakes when you're preparing food that has to last 8 months. Traditional knowledge transmission. The sophistication of Cree meat preservation wasn't accidental, since it was the result of carefully structured knowledge transmission systems that ensured each generation mastered these life or death skills. Children didn't just observe the smoking process, they participated in every stage, learning through hands-on experience under expert guidance. Traditional teaching began with understanding wood selection. Different woods produced different smoke compounds, and master preservers could identify the perfect combination for maximum preservation effectiveness. Children learned to recognize the subtle visual cues that indicated proper smoking temperature, the sound changes that meant airflow was correct, and the aromatic indicators that revealed preservation progress. Knowledge keepers passed down not just techniques, but the deep understanding of why each step mattered. Students learned the science behind the process, how specific smoke compounds prevented bacterial growth, why hide wrapping created the perfect preservation environment, and how traditional storage methods maintained quality for years. The fur trade connection. Historical documentation from European fur traders provides fascinating insights into Cree preservation mastery. Trading post records from the 1700s and 1800s consistently note the superior quality and longevity of Cree preserved meat compared to European methods. Hudson's Bay Company trader Samuel Hearne wrote in 1772, "The Indians preserve their meat with such skill that I have eaten provisions kept by them for upwards of 4 years, and found it as good as when first prepared. Our European methods produce meat that spoils within months by comparison." These historical accounts weren't just casual observations, they were business records documenting the economic value of superior preservation techniques. Fur traders actively sought Cree preserved meat for long expeditions because the Cree could rely on its quality and nutritional value far longer than their own preserved foods. Archaeological evidence of continuous innovation. Recent excavations at traditional Cree campsites reveal continuous innovation in the preservation techniques over thousands of years. Archaeologists have identified at least 4 distinct evolutionary phases in smoking structure design, each representing improvements in efficiency and effectiveness. The earliest structures show basic smoke containment methods. Later developments include sophisticated airflow control system, specialized drying racks made from specific wood types, and even what appears to be temperature regulation through strategic fire management. The most recent pre-contact sites show incredibly advanced preservation facilities that rival modern food processing in their systematic approach. Cultural integration and spiritual significance. For the Cree peoples, meat preservation was never just a practical skill, it was deeply integrated into cultural and spiritual practices. The successful preservation of meat represented the continuation of life itself, connecting the spiritual aspects of the hunt with the practical realities of family survival. Traditional protocols governed every aspect of the preservation process, from the spiritual preparation before smoking began to the ceremonial aspects of storing the finished product. These weren't superstitions, they were quality control measures disguised as cultural practices, ensuring that every step received the attention and respect necessary for success. Living tradition, continuing innovation. It's crucial to understand that these aren't lost historical techniques. Contemporary Cree communities continue to practice and refine traditional meat preservation methods, adapting ancient wisdom to modern circumstances, while maintaining the core techniques that have ensured survival for thousands of years. Modern Cree knowledge keepers work with researchers and cultural centres to document and preserve these techniques, not as museum pieces, but as living traditions that continue to provide practical value. Community elders still teach young people the traditional methods, ensuring that this sophisticated food preservation knowledge continues into future generations. Today's Cree practitioners have adapted traditional techniques to modern materials and circumstances, while maintaining the essential processes that create superior preservation results. They use traditional knowledge as the foundation while incorporating modern tools that make the process more efficient without compromising effectiveness. The foundation for mastery. This rich cultural and historical context reveals why Cree moose hide smoking became the world's most effective traditional meat preservation technique. Thousands of years of refinement driven by absolute survival necessity and supported by sophisticated knowledge transmission systems created preservation methods that modern science is still working to fully understand. These harsh survival pressures, drove the Cree to perfect meat smoking techniques so sophisticated that learning them step by step reveals true food preservation mastery, techniques we're about to explore in complete detail. The foundation: moose hide preparation. The secret to 5-year meat preservation begins long before the smoking process starts. It begins with the meticulous preparation of moose hide that will become the final protective barrier for preserved meat. Traditional Cree hide preparation is a sophisticated process that modern food scientists are only beginning to understand. The brain tanning process that Cree masters perfected creates hide with unique properties that synthetic materials simply cannot match. Fresh moose hide contains natural oils and proteins that, when properly processed, create an antimicrobial barrier that prevents spoilage while allowing the hide to breathe, maintaining perfect moisture balance for years. The process begins immediately after the hunt. The hide must be carefully removed without punctures or tears, as any damage compromises the final preservation quality. Cree processors use specific cutting patterns that preserve the hide's natural strength while creating the optimal shape for meat wrapping. Traditional brain tanning involves working the animal's own brain matter into the hide, creating a soft, pliable material that retains natural antimicrobial properties. The brain contains specific enzymes and oils that, when properly worked into the hide fibers, create a preservation environment that protects stored meat for years. Elder Robert Sinclair demonstrates the traditional technique. You work the brain mixture deep into every fiber, then smoke the hide itself over specific woods. This creates a barrier that keeps good air in and bad air out, better than any plastic wrap ever invented. Precision meat processing. The cutting and processing of moose meat for long-term preservation requires techniques passed down through countless generations. This isn't random butchering, but it's precision food science that maximizes preservation effectiveness while maintaining nutritional value. Cree meat processing begins with understanding muscle structure and fat distribution. Different muscle groups require different treatment, and master processors can identify exactly which cuts will preserve best using traditional methods. The key is creating uniform thickness that allows smoke penetration while maintaining structural integrity. The traditional cutting pattern creates long, thin strips approximately 2 fingers wide and 1 finger thick. This specific dimension isn't arbitrary. It represents the perfect balance between smoke penetration and structural strength. Thicker pieces won't smoke properly. Thinner pieces become too brittle for long-term storage. Fat distribution presents unique challenges. While some fat enhances flavor and provides essential nutrition, too much fat can lead to rancidity during long-term storage. Master Cree processors develop an eye for identifying the perfect fat-to-lean ratio that maximizes preservation success. The cutting technique itself requires specific knife angles and consistent pressure to create clean cuts that don't damage muscle fibers. Damaged fibers create entry points for bacteria and compromise the preservation process. Traditional Cree knives, made from specific materials and maintained with particular sharpening techniques, create cuts that modern steel often cannot match. Traditional smoking structure construction. The smoking structures used by Cree masters aren't simple fire pits, they're sophisticated engineering marvels designed to create perfect preservation conditions. These structures control temperature, airflow, and smoke distribution with precision that rivals modern food processing equipment. The traditional tippy-style smoker begins with a framework of specific wood poles arranged in precise geometric patterns. The spacing between poles, the angle of construction, and the height of the structure all affect the final smoking results. Each dimension has been refined over thousands of years to create optimal preservation conditions. The base of the structure requires careful preparation. Stones are arranged in specific patterns to create heat distribution and airflow control. The size and type of stones affect temperature regulation, and traditional builders can identify the perfect stone combinations for different smoking conditions. Ventilation represents the most sophisticated aspect of traditional smoker construction. The structure must allow enough airflow to prevent overheating while maintaining sufficient smoke concentration for preservation. Traditional builders create adjustable ventilation systems using hide flaps and wooden controls that provide precise airflow management. The interior of the smoking structure includes specialized racks made from specific wood types that don't impart unwanted flavors to the meat. These racks are positioned at exact heights to ensure uniform smoke exposure while allowing proper air circulation around each piece of meat. the science of wood selection. Perhaps no aspect of Cree meat preservation demonstrates their sophisticated understanding of natural chemistry more than their wood selection techniques. Different woods produce distinctly different smoke compounds, and master preservers develop complex combinations that create antimicrobial environments stronger than many modern preservatives. Traditional Cree preservers use specific combinations of birch, willow, alder, and other boreal forest species, each contributing unique preservation properties. Birch bark creates compounds that prevent bacterial growth. Willow contributes natural salicylates that act as preservatives. Alder produces smoke with exceptional penetration properties that ensure complete preservation throughout thick meat sections. The preparation of wood materials requires as much skill as the smoking process itself. Woods must be properly seasoned to create clean-burning smoke without unwanted moisture or bitter compounds. Different parts of the same tree, bark, inner wood and outer wood, will contribute different properties to the final smoke blend. Master wood preparers can identify the perfect moisture content by touch, sound and smell. Wood that's too dry burns too quickly and creates harsh smoke. Wood that's too wet produces steam instead of a proper preservation smoke. The perfect balance creates steady aromatic smoke that penetrates meat completely while maintaining ideal preservation temperatures. The timing of wood addition during the smoking process follows traditional patterns that ensure consistent results. Initial fires use fast-burning materials to establish proper temperature. Maintenance fires use slow-burning combinations that provide steady smoke for hours. Final stages use specific woods that create the perfect finishing compounds for long-term preservation. Mastering the smoking process. The actual smoking process represents the culmination of all previous preparation work. Traditional Cree smoking follows precise temperature and timing sequences that ensure complete preservation without over-drying or under-processing. Temperature control begins before the meat enters the smoker. Traditional builders maintain specific heat levels using fire management techniques that create consistent conditions throughout the smoking chamber. The perfect temperature range, warm enough for preservation but cool enough to prevent cooking, requires constant attention and expert fire management. The initial smoking phase focuses on surface treatment. Meat surfaces must reach specific conditions before internal preservation can begin effectively. Master smokers recognize the visual and aromatic indicators that show when a surface preparation is complete and internal smoking can begin. Quality indicators throughout the process guide expert smokers in making real-time adjustments. The color of the smoke, the appearance of the meat surface, the aroma of the smoking chamber, and the sound of moisture evaporation all provide information about preservation progress. Traditional timing follows natural cycles rather than mechanical clocks. Experienced smokers read environmental conditions, humidity, wind, temperature, and adjust smoking duration accordingly. A process that takes 2 days in dry conditions might require 3 days in humid weather. The art of perfect wrapping. The final stage of traditional preservation, wrapping the smoked meat in prepared moose hide, requires techniques that create airtight seals lasting years without any modern materials. This wrapping process represents centuries of refinement in creating long-term storage systems. The hide wrapping begins with preparing individual portions of smoked meat. Pieces are arranged in specific patterns that maximize storage efficiency while ensuring each piece remains accessible. Traditional wrapping creates organized packages that allow families to access preserved meat without exposing the entire supply to air. The wrapping technique itself uses traditional binding methods that create secure, airtight seals. Strips of prepared hide serve as binding materials tied using specific knots that tighten over time rather than loosening. These knots, passed down through generations, create seals that actually improve with age. Multiple layers of wrapping provide different types of protection. Inner layers focus on moisture control and antimicrobial protection. Outer layers provide physical protection and additional barriers against environmental threats. Each layer is applied using specific techniques that ensure maximum effectiveness. The final storage preparation involves treating the wrapped packages with additional protective measures. Traditional storage includes specific positioning methods that prevent moisture accumulation and ensure proper air circulation around stored packages. Storage and long-term preservation. Traditional Cree storage methods transform properly smoked and wrapped meat into 5-year preservation systems that maintain nutritional value and palatability throughout extended storage periods. These storage techniques represent the final critical step in creating truly long-term food security. Storage locations require specific environmental conditions that traditional knowledge keepers identified through generations of experience. Underground caches, elevated platforms, and specially constructed storage structures each provide different advantages for different preservation needs. Traditional storage containers, made from birch bark and other natural materials, create additional protection layers while maintaining proper ventilation. These containers allow beneficial air circulation while preventing moisture accumulation and pest intrusion. Monitoring stored meat requires regular inspection techniques that identify potential problems before they compromise the entire supply. Traditional storage keepers develop the ability to detect quality changes through visual, tactile, and aromatic indicators that reveal preservation status. Quality control. Throughout the process, master Cree food preservers developed sophisticated quality control systems that ensure consistent results across varying conditions and circumstances. These quality control measures represent accumulated wisdom from thousands of years of preservation experience. Visual indicators guide every stage of the process, from initial hide preparation through final storage. Experienced preservers recognize the subtle color changes, texture modifications, and surface characteristics that indicate proper preservation progress. Aromatic indicators provide crucial information about preservation chemistry. The smell of properly smoking meat, the aroma of effective wood combinations, and the scent of successfully preserved final products all communicate preservation status to trained practitioners. Tactile indicators allow preservers to assess moisture content, texture development, and structural integrity throughout the preservation process. The feel of properly prepared hide, the texture of correctly smoked meat, and the flexibility of successfully preserved final products all provide quality assessment information. Modern applications and adaptations. Contemporary practitioners of traditional Cree preservation methods have successfully adapted these techniques to modern circumstances while maintaining the essential processes that create superior preservation results. Modern applications demonstrate the continued relevance and effectiveness of traditional knowledge. Survival schools across North America now teach traditional Cree smoking techniques because they consistently outperform modern preservation methods in field conditions. Students learn that traditional techniques provide more reliable results with simpler equipment and readily available materials. Food preservation specialists studying traditional methods continue discovering new applications for ancient techniques. Research reveals that traditional smoke compounds provide preservation benefits that synthetic preservatives cannot match, leading to a renewed interest in traditional knowledge among food scientists. But Master Cree food preservers didn't stop with basic smoking. They developed advanced techniques for every possible storage challenge, creating preservation systems so sophisticated that modern science is still working to understand their full effectiveness. Seasonal mastery, adapting to extreme climate variations. The true genius of Cree meat preservation lies not just in the basic techniques, but in the sophisticated variations developed to handle the extreme seasonal challenges of subarctic living. Master practitioners developed completely different approaches for summer's scorching heat and winter's brutal cold, creating preservation systems that worked flawlessly across temperature ranges spanning 70 degrees Celsius. Summer preservation presented unique challenges that required revolutionary adaptations. When temperatures soared above 30 degrees Celsius, traditional smoking techniques had to be modified to prevent spoilage during the critical first hours of processing. Cree summer specialists developed rapid cooling techniques that brought fresh meat to safe temperatures before beginning the smoking process. The summer smoking process itself required different wood combinations and modified airflow systems. Hot weather smoking used specific tree bark combinations that created cooling effects while maintaining preservation properties. Traditional summer smokers incorporated underground cooling chambers that maintained steady temperatures even during heat waves. Elder Margaret Bear explains the complexity. Summer smoking wasn't just regular smoking in hot weather, it was completely different science. We used different woods, different timing, different everything. The old ones knew that summer meat could last just as long as winter meat if you understood the techniques. Winter preservation brought opposite challenges that demanded equally innovative solutions. Sub-zero temperatures could freeze meat before proper smoking occurred, requiring specialized heating techniques that brought frozen meat to optimal smoking temperatures without compromising preservation quality. Traditional winter smoking incorporated snow and ice management systems that controlled humidity while maintaining necessary heat levels. Master winter preservers developed techniques for smoking meat inside winter shelters when outdoor conditions became impossible, creating indoor ventilation systems that prevented smoke poisoning while ensuring complete preservation. Game-specific preservation mastery. Perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of advanced Cree preservation involved the specialized techniques developed for different game species. Each animal required unique processing methods that maximized preservation effectiveness while accounting for specific meat characteristics, fat distribution, and nutritional properties. Deer and elk preservation required techniques that handled lean meat with minimal fat content. These animals provided different challenges than moose, requiring modified cutting patterns and specialized smoking methods that prevented overdrying while ensuring complete preservation. Traditional deer smoking used specific wood combinations that enhanced flavor while providing excellent preservation properties. Bear meat presented the most complex preservation challenges due to its high fat content and potential for trichinosis. Master Cree processors developed sophisticated bear smoking techniques that eliminated health risks while creating preserved meat that lasted even longer than other game. Bear meat preservation required extended smoking periods and specialized temperature control that ensured complete safety. The bear meat process involved preliminary treatments that removed excess fat while preserving beneficial oils. Traditional bear smoking used unique wood combinations that created antimicrobial compounds specifically effective against bear meat pathogens. The final preservation created bear meat packages that provided high-energy nutrition during the most challenging winter conditions. Fish preservation represented an entirely different category of traditional expertise. Fish contain enzymes and moisture levels that require completely different preservation approaches than land animals. Cree fish smoking techniques created preserved fish that remained nutritious and palatable for up to 3 years, an achievement that the modern fish preservation still struggles to match. Traditional fish smoking involved preliminary salt treatments using natural mineral deposits found throughout Cree territories. These mineral treatments drew out excess moisture while enhancing preservation properties. Fish smoking structures used different designs that accommodated the unique airflow requirements of fish preservation. Waterfowl preservation required yet another set of specialized techniques that handled the unique properties of duck, goose, and other bird meat. Waterfowl contain different fat distributions and moisture levels that require modified smoking approaches to achieve long-term preservation success. Emergency preservation techniques. Cree survival expertise included sophisticated emergency preservation methods that could save unexpected harvests or handle crisis situations when normal smoking facilities weren't available. These emergency techniques demonstrate the depth of traditional preservation knowledge and its adaptability to challenging circumstances. Field preservation techniques allowed hunters to begin the preservation process immediately after a successful hunt, even when far from established smoking facilities. Portable smoking systems using readily available materials could create effective preservation conditions anywhere in the boreal forest. Traditional field smoking involved constructing temporary smoking structures using techniques that required no tools beyond what hunters normally carried. These emergency smokers provided sufficient preservation to transport meat safely back to permanent facilities while beginning the smoking process that ensured long-term storage success. Rapid smoking techniques could preserve large quantities of meat in compressed time frames when circumstances demanded quick action. These accelerated methods maintained preservation quality while reducing processing time from days to hours when necessary. Emergency preservation also included techniques for handling damaged or partially spoiled meat that could still be saved through traditional methods. Master preservers could assess meat quality and apply specialized treatments that recovered meat that would otherwise be lost, ensuring maximum utilization of precious protein resources. Regional specializations, plains set versus woodland adaptations. The different environments inhabited by Plains Cree and Woodland Cree peoples drove the development of regionally specialized preservation techniques that optimized traditional methods for specific environmental conditions and available resources. Plains Cree preservation techniques adapted to the parkland environment where forest met grassland. This environment provided different wood species and required preservation methods that worked effectively in more open terrain with different wind patterns and weather systems. Plains Cree smoking structures incorporated design elements that handled prairie wind conditions while maintaining effective smoke concentration. These designs used windbreak techniques and modified ventilation systems that created stable smoking environments despite challenging weather conditions. The wood combinations available to Plains Cree required different smoking approaches that maximized the preservation properties of parkland tree species. Plains smoking techniques developed unique methods for combining grassland and forest materials to create effective preservation systems. Woodland Cree techniques optimize preservation for deep forest environments with different humidity levels, wind patterns, and available materials. Dense forest conditions provided excellent protection for smoking operations, but required different ventilation approaches to maintain proper airflow. Woodland preservation structures incorporated forest materials and techniques that took advantage of dense tree cover while managing the higher humidity levels common in deep forest environments. These techniques created preservation systems perfectly adapted to boreal forest conditions. Underground storage innovation. Among the most impressive achievements of advanced Cree preservation technology were the sophisticated underground storage systems that maintained preserved meat quality for decades. These cache systems represent engineering achievements that rival modern food storage in their effectiveness and longevity. Traditional cache construction involved selecting specific soil types and drainage conditions that created ideal storage environments. Master cache builders could identify ground conditions that provided natural temperature control and moisture management for extended storage periods. Underground cache systems incorporated multiple chambers designed for different storage needs. Long-term caches stored meat intended for multi-year storage, while seasonal caches provided shorter-term storage for more immediate needs. Each cache type required different construction techniques and environmental considerations. Cache construction techniques created storage environments that maintained steady temperatures year-round while preventing moisture accumulation and pest intrusion. Traditional cache builders used natural materials to create insulation and ventilation systems that rivaled modern storage technology. The cache management systems ensured that stored meat remained accessible while maintaining storage integrity. Traditional cache keepers developed rotation methods that allowed access to stored supplies without compromising the preservation environment for remaining supplies. Quality enhancement and optimization advanced Cree preservation included sophisticated techniques for enhancing flavor, optimizing nutritional content, and controlling texture characteristics of preserved meat. These quality control methods transformed basic preservation into culinary art that created superior food products. Flavor development techniques use specific smoking methods that enhance taste while maintaining preservation effectiveness. Master preservers understood how different wood combinations, smoking temperatures, and timing sequences affected final flavor profiles. Traditional flavor enhancement involved layered smoking techniques that built complex taste profiles through multiple smoking stages. Each stage used different materials and techniques that contributed specific flavor elements to the final product. Nutritional optimization techniques ensured that preserved meat maintained maximum nutritional value throughout extended storage periods. Traditional methods understood how preservation techniques have affected protein quality, vitamin content, and mineral availability. Texture control methods created preserved meat with optimal consistency for different uses. Some preservation techniques created tender meat suitable for immediate consumption, while others produced tougher preservation that provided long-lasting nutrition during extended travel or harsh weather conditions. Modern professional applications. Contemporary professionals across multiple fields have adopted advanced Cree preservation techniques because they consistently outperform modern alternatives in challenging conditions. These modern applications demonstrate the continued relevance and superiority of traditional preservation knowledge. Professional hunting guides use traditional techniques to provide clients with superior preserved meat that maintains quality throughout extended wilderness expeditions. These applications prove that traditional methods work better than modern alternatives for serious outdoor professionals. Off-grid communities have adopted traditional cache construction and meat preservation methods to create food security systems that don't depend on electricity or modern infrastructure. These communities report preservation success rates that exceed modern alternatives. Emergency preparedness experts study traditional techniques to develop survival food systems that maintain nutritional value and palatability for extended periods. Military survival schools now include traditional preservation training because it provides superior results with minimal equipment. Research institutions studying traditional food preservation continue discovering new applications for ancient techniques. Food scientists report that traditional smoke compounds provide preservation benefits that synthetic alternatives cannot match. These advanced Cree innovations were so effective that modern food scientists and preservation experts have spent decades trying to understand their superiority. Research that continues revealing the sophisticated science behind traditional knowledge. Scientific validation of ancient wisdom. The most remarkable aspect of Cree moose hide smoking isn't just that it works, it's that modern science is finally understanding why it works so extraordinarily well. Food microbiologists studying traditional preservation methods have discovered that Cree smoking techniques create antimicrobial compounds that modern food science is desperately trying to replicate in laboratory settings. Dr. Sarah Chen, a food microbiologist at the University of Saskatchewan, has spent 5 years analysing traditional Cree preservation methods. Her research reveals stunning scientific sophistication. When we analyse meat preserved using traditional Cree methods, we find antimicrobial compound concentrations that exceed many modern preservatives. The specific wood combinations create natural preservative compounds that we're still trying to synthesize artificially. Laboratory analysis of traditionally preserved meat samples shows bacterial counts so low they're almost undetectable, even after years of storage. These results consistently outperform modern preservation techniques, including vacuum sealing, freeze-drying, and chemical preservatives. The antimicrobial effectiveness of traditional smoking compounds creates preservation environments that modern food science struggles to achieve. The scientific analysis reveals that traditional wood combinations produce specific phenolic compounds, aldehydes, and organic acids that create multi-layered antimicrobial protection. Each wood species contributes different protective compounds, and the traditional combinations create synergistic effects that amplify preservation effectiveness beyond what any single preservative can achieve. Professional food preservation. Expert adoption. Food preservation professionals across North America have quietly adopted traditional Cree techniques because they consistently produce superior results compared to modern alternatives. These professionals aren't using traditional methods as novelties, they are using them because they feel they work better than anything else available. Master food preserver Jennifer Thompson, who teaches preservation workshops across Canada, explains her conversion to traditional methods. I spent 20 years teaching modern preservation techniques. Then I learned traditional Cree smoking and realized everything I'd been teaching was inferior. Traditional methods produce better results, last longer, taste better, and require less equipment. Professional workshops now regularly feature traditional Cree preservation techniques alongside modern methods. Students consistently report that traditional methods produce superior results with greater reliability than contemporary preservation techniques. Workshop evaluations show that students prefer traditional methods because they work consistently across varying conditions. The Professional Food Preservation Association now includes traditional smoking techniques in their certification programs. Instructors report that students who master traditional methods show better overall preservation success rates and greater confidence in field applications, wilderness and survival industry integration. The wilderness survival and outdoor education industry has embraced traditional Cree preservation methods because they provide superior results in real-world field conditions. Professional survival schools report that traditional techniques outperform modern alternatives consistently enough that they've become standard curriculum. Tom Rodriguez, director of the Northern Wilderness Survival Institute, describes the transformation. We used to teach modern preservation methods, freeze-drying, chemical treatments, vacuum sealing. Students kept coming back reporting failures. Since we switched to traditional Cree techniques, our success rates have dramatically improved. Students report consistent preservation success even in challenging field conditions. Military survival training programs have incorporated traditional preservation methods after extensive field testing, proved their superiority over modern alternatives. Special Forces training now includes traditional smoking techniques because they provide reliable food security using only materials available in wilderness environments. Wilderness Guide certification programs require proficiency in traditional preservation methods because professional guides need techniques that work reliably without modern equipment. Guide services report that traditional preservation methods provide better client satisfaction and safety margins during extended wilderness expeditions. Research, documentation, and academic studies. Academic research institutions across North America are conducting extensive studies on traditional preservation methods, consistently finding that ancient techniques outperform modern alternatives in multiple performance categories. The University of Manitoba's Indigenous Food Systems Research Centre has published multiple peer-reviewed studies documenting the effectiveness of traditional preservation methods. Their research confirms that traditional techniques produce longer-lasting preservation with better nutritional retention compared to modern alternatives. Dr. Michael Beardy's research team has documented preservation success rates exceeding 95% for traditional methods, compared to 60 to 70% success rates for modern techniques under similar conditions. Their studies show that traditional preservation maintains protein quality and nutritional value significantly better than contemporary alternatives. Nutritional analysis studies reveal that traditionally preserved meat retains higher levels of essential amino acids, B vitamins, and minerals compared to modern preservation methods. The traditional smoking process appears to protect nutritional compounds that modern techniques often destroy or reduce. Microbiology and antimicrobial research. Cutting-edge microbiology research is revealing the sophisticated antimicrobial science behind traditional preservation methods. Research laboratories are studying traditional smoking compounds to develop new preservative technologies based on ancient knowledge. Microbiological testing of traditionally preserved meat shows bacterial inhibition rates that exceed modern synthetic preservatives. The natural compounds created by traditional smoking methods demonstrate broad-spectrum antimicrobial activity against multiple pathogen types. Research teams have identified specific antimicrobial compounds created by traditional wood combinations that don't exist in nature elsewhere. These compounds appear to be created only through the specific smoking processes developed by traditional practitioners over thousands of years. Laboratory studies attempting to replicate traditional preservation compounds using modern techniques have failed to achieve the same antimicrobial effectiveness. The complex interactions between different wood smoke compounds cannot be artificially reproduced with current technology. Expert testimonials and professional endorsements. Food preservation experts, survival instructors, and research scientists provide compelling testimonials about the superiority of traditional Cree preservation methods compared to modern alternatives. Dr. Patricia Williams, a food safety researcher at the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, states, "Traditional Cree preservation methods achieve food safety standards that modern techniques struggle to match. The natural antimicrobial compounds created through traditional smoking provide protection that synthetic preservatives cannot replicate." Survival instructor Mark Stevens, who has trained thousands of students over 20 years, reports, "Students who learn traditional preservation methods show 90% success rates in field conditions. Students using only modern techniques show 60% success rates under the same conditions. Traditional methods simply work better." Food preservation specialist Lisa Martinez describes her experience, "I've tested every modern preservation technique available. Traditional Cree smoking consistently produces the longest-lasting, best-tasting, most nutritious preserved meat. It's not even close. Traditional methods are superior in every category." Integration into modern food systems. Progressive food systems are beginning to integrate traditional preservation principles into contemporary applications, creating hybrid approaches that combine ancient wisdom with modern convenience. Artisanal food producers use traditional smoking techniques to create premium preserved meat products that command higher prices due to superior quality and longer shelf life. These producers report that traditional methods create products that outperform industrially preserved alternatives. Sustainable food systems advocates promote traditional preservation methods as environmentally superior alternatives to energy-intensive modern preservation techniques. Traditional methods require no electricity, produce no chemical waste, and use renewable materials. Emergency food storage specialists recommend traditional preservation methods for disaster preparedness because they work without infrastructure and provide longer-lasting food security than modern alternatives. Ongoing research and development. Current research continues revealing new applications and benefits of traditional preservation knowledge. Scientists are studying traditional methods to develop better modern preservation technologies while respecting the cultural origins of this knowledge. Food technology researchers are investigating how traditional smoking compounds might be incorporated into modern food processing to improve preservation effectiveness. However, attempts to isolate and synthesize traditional compounds have not achieved the same results as complete traditional methods. Nutritional research is exploring how traditional preservation methods affect food bioavailability and digestive health. Preliminary studies suggest that traditionally preserved foods may provide superior nutritional benefits compared to modern alternatives. Climate change researchers are studying traditional preservation methods as sustainable alternatives to energy-intensive modern food storage systems. Traditional techniques require no fossil fuel inputs and produce no carbon emissions while achieving superior preservation results. Professional training and certification. Professional organizations now offer training and certification in traditional preservation methods due to increasing demand from food preservation professionals all seeking superior techniques. The International Food Preservation Association has developed certification programs that include traditional smoking techniques alongside modern methods. These programs recognize that traditional knowledge provides valuable techniques that complement contemporary food preservation education. Continuing education programs for food preservation professionals increasingly feature traditional methods workshops. Professional development requirements now include exposure to traditional techniques because they represent best practices in many preservation applications. With this scientific validation and expert endorsement, you're ready to learn how to implement these proven techniques in your own food preservation practices, bringing thousands of years of refined traditional knowledge into your modern food security planning. Getting started. Material sourcing and legal considerations. Before beginning your journey into traditional Cree preservation methods, understanding modern legal requirements and safe material sourcing is absolutely essential. Contemporary practitioners must navigate hunting regulations, food safety laws, and ethical sourcing while maintaining respect for traditional knowledge origins. Legal meat acquisition requires understanding your local hunting regulations and licensing requirements. Most regions require hunting licenses, tags for specific game species, and compliance with seasonal restrictions. Contact your local wildlife management office to understand requirements for moose, deer, elk, or other game suitable for traditional preservation. For non-hunters, legal alternatives include purchasing whole or partial animals from licensed game processors, native-owned businesses, or specialty meat suppliers who can provide appropriate cuts for traditional preservation. Many regions have licensed game meat suppliers who can provide moose, elk, or deer specifically for preservation projects. Moose hide sourcing presents unique challenges in modern settings. Traditional brain-tanned moose hide may be available through indigenous artisans, traditional craftspeople, or specialty suppliers who work with the native communities. Always ensure that hide sources respect cultural protocols and provide fair compensation to traditional knowledge keepers. Alternative hide options include deer hide or elk hide, which can be processed using similar traditional methods. Some practitioners use commercially tanned hides, though these lack the specific properties of traditional brain-tanned materials. When possible, source materials through relationships that support indigenous communities maintaining traditional practices. Essential safety protocols and food safety standards. Modern implementation of traditional preservation requires strict adherence to food safety protocols that prevent contamination while maintaining traditional technique effectiveness. Safety considerations must address temperature control, contamination prevention, and proper handling throughout the entire process. Temperature monitoring represents the most critical safety aspect of traditional smoking. While traditional practitioners relied on experience and environmental cues, modern safety requires accurate temperature measurement. Invest in reliable thermometers that can monitor both ambient smoking chamber temperature and internal meat temperature. The critical temperature range for safe traditional smoking maintains chamber temperatures between 80 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 27 to 32 degrees Celsius, during the initial smoking phases, gradually increasing to 100 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 to 43 degrees Celsius during final preservation stages. These temperatures prevent bacterial growth while allowing proper smoke penetration and moisture removal. Contamination prevention requires clean handling practices throughout the entire process. All cutting surfaces, tools and hands must be properly sanitized. Use food-grade cutting boards and knives specifically designated for meat processing. Maintain clean work environments and prevent cross-contamination between different processing stages. Time limits for safe processing ensure that meat doesn't remain in danger zones where bacterial growth can occur. Fresh meat must begin smoking within 24 hours of harvest or purchase. Initial smoking phases must begin within 4 hours of cutting to prevent spoilage during preparation. Progressive skill development, from beginner to master. Mastering traditional Cree preservation requires systematic skill development that builds competency through progressive experience. Rushing into advanced techniques without proper foundation skills leads to preservation failures and potential safety issues. Beginner level, Foundation Skills, Season 1. Start with the small-scale projects using readily available materials and simplified techniques. Your first preservation project should focus on mastering basic smoking principles using deer or elk, rather than attempting full moose preservation. Begin with thin-cut meat strips using modern smoking equipment that provides reliable temperature control. This allows you to learn smoke management, timing, and quality assessment without the variables of traditional structure construction. Practice hide preparation using commercially available deer hide while learning traditional brain tanning techniques. This provides experience with hide processing without the complexity of sourcing and processing moose hide. Develop wood selection skills by studying local tree identification and testing different wood combinations on small preservation batches. Learn to recognize proper burning characteristics and smoke quality from different species. Intermediate level, Traditional Integration, Season 2. Progress to constructing modified traditional smoking structures that incorporate modern safety monitoring with traditional design principles. Build structures using traditional materials but include modern temperature and airflow monitoring systems. Advance to working with larger game pieces and longer preservation periods. Practice the complete smoking process from initial preparation through final stridge, developing skills in recognizing quality indicators throughout the process. Learn traditional hide preparation techniques using properly sourced materials. Practice brain tanning methods and traditional hide smoking to create authentic preservation materials. Develop expertise in traditional storage methods by constructing underground caches and traditional storage systems. Test long-term preservation success through systematic monitoring and quality assessment. Advanced level, Master Practitioner, Season 3+. Master complete traditional techniques using authentic materials and methods. Achieve consistent preservation success across varying conditions and circumstances. Develop expertise in emergency preservation techniques and field applications. Practice rapid smoking methods and portable preservation systems for challenging conditions. Learn advanced variations for different game species and seasonal conditions. Master specialized techniques for fish, waterfowl, and other challenging preservation applications. Achieve the ability to teach others and pass on traditional knowledge responsibly, while maintaining proper cultural attribution and respect. Modern equipment adaptations and tool alternatives. Contemporary practitioners can achieve excellent results using modern equipment adaptations that maintain traditional technique effectiveness, while incorporating modern safety and convenience features. Smoking structure alternatives. Modern smokers can be adapted for traditional techniques by modifying airflow systems and temperature controls. Electric or gas smokers provide reliable heat sources while allowing traditional smoke generation using authentic wood combinations. Barrel smokers constructed using traditional principles provide excellent results with modern materials. Use food-grade barrels and incorporate traditional ventilation designs to create effective preservation environments. Traditional structure construction using modern materials combines authentic techniques with contemporary safety features. Use modern hardware and treated lumber while maintaining traditional proportions and ventilation systems. Tool substitutions and modern equipment. Modern knives can substitute for traditional cutting tools when properly selected and maintained. Choose high-quality steel knives designed for butchering and meat processing. Maintain sharp edges and proper sanitation throughout use. Digital thermometers and humidity monitors provide precise environmental control that enhances traditional techniques. Use wireless monitoring systems that allow continuous observation without disturbing the smoking process. Modern cutting surfaces and processing equipment can improve efficiency while maintaining traditional technique integrity. Use food-grade cutting boards, stainless steel processing tables, and appropriate safety equipment. Storage solutions and long-term preservation management. Modern storage applications of traditional techniques require adaptations that accommodate contemporary living situations while maintaining preservation effectiveness. Indoor storage adaptations. Climate-controlled storage areas can provide excellent environments for traditionally preserved meat when outdoor cache construction isn't practical. Maintain steady temperatures and humidity levels that replicate traditional storage conditions. Modern containers can substitute for traditional storage materials when selected appropriately. Use breathable materials that allow air circulation while preventing pest intrusion and moisture accumulation. Basement storage areas often provide ideal conditions for traditional preservation when properly prepared. Ensure adequate ventilation, pest control, and environmental monitoring for successful long-term storage. Monitoring and quality control. Regular inspection schedules ensure early detection of any preservation problems before they compromise stored supplies. Develop systematic inspection routines that assess visual, tactile, and aromatic quality indicators. Record-keeping systems help track preservation success and identify factors that affect storage outcomes. Maintain detailed logs of preservation techniques, storage conditions, and quality assessments over time. Quality testing methods allow verification of preservation success without compromising entire storage supplies. Learn to assess small samples that indicate the condition of larger storage quantities. Integration with modern food systems. Traditional preservation techniques can be effectively integrated into contemporary food security and sustainable living practices while maintaining cultural respect and technique authenticity. Emergency preparedness applications. Traditional preservation provides excellent emergency food security that doesn't depend on electricity or modern infrastructure. Develop preservation skills as part of comprehensive emergency preparedness planning. Long-term food storage using traditional methods creates reliable nutrition reserves that maintain quality longer than many modern alternatives. Consider traditional preservation as a complement to other emergency food storage strategies. Power-independent preservation methods ensure food security during extended outages or infrastructure failures. Traditional techniques provide reliable alternatives when modern food storage systems become unavailable. Sustainable living. Integration. Traditional preservation reduces dependence on industrial food systems while providing superior nutrition and flavor. Integrate traditional techniques into broader sustainable living and local food system participation. Environmental benefits of traditional preservation include reduced energy consumption, elimination of chemical preservatives, and use of renewable materials. Traditional methods align with environmental sustainability goals. Cultural learning opportunities through traditional preservation create connections with indigenous knowledge systems and sustainable living practices. Approach learning with respect and acknowledgement of cultural origins. Ethical learning and cultural responsibility. Modern practitioners of traditional preservation techniques bear responsibility for respectful learning and appropriate cultural acknowledgement. This responsibility extends beyond technique mastery to include cultural sensitivity and community support. Always acknowledge the Cree origins of these preservation techniques and avoid claiming personal innovation or discovery. Recognize that these methods represent thousands of years of indigenous knowledge development and refinement. Support indigenous communities and traditional knowledge keepers through appropriate purchases, donations, or volunteer support. Seek opportunities to give back to communities that maintain and share traditional knowledge. Learn about contemporary Cree communities and their ongoing relationship with traditional food systems. Understanding current cultural contexts enhances appreciation for traditional knowledge and its continuing relevance. As you develop these skills, it's crucial to understand the cultural heritage and responsibility that comes with learning traditional Cree preservation knowledge. Knowledge that represents not just techniques, but the survival wisdom of entire communities over thousands of years. Acknowledging living traditional knowledge. The Cree moose hide smoking techniques you've learned about aren't museum artifacts or historical curiosities. They represent living traditional knowledge that continues to evolve and thrive within contemporary Cree communities. Understanding this distinction is absolutely crucial for anyone who wants to respectfully engage with traditional preservation methods. When we discuss traditional Cree preservation techniques, we're talking about knowledge systems that belong to specific communities and continue to be practiced, refined, and passed down by Cree knowledge keepers today. These aren't lost techniques that need to be rediscovered. They are active cultural practices maintained by indigenous communities who never stopped using them. Elder Joseph Nater Howe of the Little Pine First Nation emphasizes this point. Our grandmothers and grandfathers never stopped teaching these preservation methods. We've been using these techniques continuously. What's new is that non-Indigenous people are finally recognizing how effective our traditional knowledge has always been. This living tradition means that contemporary Cree communities remain the primary authorities on traditional preservation techniques. Any learning or application of these methods should acknowledge this ongoing cultural ownership and expertise. Ethical learning and cultural attribution, respectful engagement with traditional preservation knowledge, requires understanding the difference between cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation. Learning traditional techniques respectfully means acknowledging their origins, supporting the communities that maintain them, and avoiding claims of personal discovery or innovation. Proper attribution involves consistently crediting Cree innovation whenever discussing or demonstrating traditional preservation techniques. This means stating clearly that these methods were developed by Cree peoples over thousands of years and continue to be maintained by contemporary Cree communities. When sharing knowledge about traditional preservation, always frame it within its cultural context rather than presenting it as generic wilderness survival techniques. The sophisticated science behind these methods represents specific cultural achievements that deserve recognition and respect. Ethical learning also means understanding the broader context of traditional knowledge sharing. Many Indigenous communities have experienced exploitation of their traditional knowledge without receiving proper credit or compensation. Respectful learners acknowledge this history and work to ensure their engagement contributes positively to contemporary Indigenous communities. Supporting contemporary Cree communities. One of the most important aspects of respectful engagement with traditional preservation knowledge involves finding ways to support the contemporary Cree communities that maintain and share this wisdom. This support goes beyond simply acknowledging cultural origins. It involves taking concrete actions that benefit Indigenous food sovereignty and cultural preservation efforts. Many Cree communities operate cultural centres, traditional food programs, and educational initiatives that work to maintain traditional preservation knowledge within Indigenous communities. Supporting these programs through donations, volunteer work, or participation in educational offerings provides direct benefit to knowledge keepers and their communities. Food sovereignty initiatives within Cree communities focus on rebuilding traditional food systems and reducing dependence on industrial food distribution. These programs often include traditional preservation training that helps community members develop skills for sustainable food security. Supporting these initiatives helps ensure that traditional knowledge remains vibrant within Indigenous communities. The Saskatchewan Indigenous Cultural Centre and similar organisations across Cree territories offer opportunities for respectful cultural learning and community support. These institutions provide authentic cultural education while ensuring that Indigenous communities benefit from knowledge-sharing activities. Honouring knowledge. Keepers and elders. Traditional preservation knowledge exists today because of the dedication of Cree elders and knowledge keepers who maintained these practices through generations of cultural suppression and forced assimilation. Recognising and honouring these individuals represents an essential aspect of respectful engagement with traditional knowledge. Knowledge keepers like Elder Margaret Bear, who continues teaching traditional food preservation at the Beardies and Okamesis Cree Nation, represent living connections to thousands of years of cultural innovation. These individuals deserve recognition not just as sources of historical information, but as contemporary experts whose knowledge continues to evolve and adapt. Supporting knowledge keepers involves recognizing their expertise and ensuring they receive appropriate compensation for sharing traditional knowledge. This might involve paying for educational workshops, purchasing traditional foods or crafts, or supporting cultural programs that employ traditional knowledge holders. The process of the knowledge transmission from elders to younger community members represents a critical aspect of cultural preservation that deserves support from respectful learners. Understanding that traditional knowledge sharing follows specific cultural protocols helps ensure that learning occurs in culturally appropriate ways. Traditional food systems and food sovereignty. Traditional preservation techniques exist within broader traditional food systems that represent sophisticated approaches to sustainable nutrition and food security. Understanding these contexts helps appreciate the full significance of preservation knowledge, while supporting contemporary Indigenous food sovereignty efforts. Food sovereignty movements within Indigenous communities work to rebuild traditional food systems that provide culturally appropriate nutrition while reducing dependence on industrial food distribution. Traditional preservation techniques play crucial roles in these efforts by enabling communities to maintain food security using traditional methods. Contemporary applications of traditional preservation within indigenous communities often combine traditional knowledge with modern materials and contexts. This adaptation demonstrates the continuing vitality and relevance of traditional knowledge while showing how indigenous communities continue to innovate within their cultural frameworks. Supporting food sovereignty efforts means recognizing that traditional preservation knowledge belongs within indigenous food systems and supporting community-led efforts to rebuild and maintain these systems. The importance of cultural continuity. Traditional preservation knowledge represents just one aspect of comprehensive traditional knowledge systems that encompass environmental understanding, spiritual practices, governance systems, and cultural values. Respecting traditional preservation means understanding its place within these broader cultural contexts. Cultural continuity efforts within Cree communities work to ensure that traditional knowledge continues to be transmitted to future generations within indigenous communities. These efforts deserve support from anyone who benefits from learning about traditional preservation techniques. Contemporary Cree communities continue to face challenges in maintaining traditional knowledge due to ongoing effects of colonization, cultural suppression, and economic pressures. Supporting cultural preservation efforts helps ensure that traditional knowledge remains available for future generations. The vitality of traditional knowledge depends on its continued use within indigenous communities, rather than its preservation in museums or academic institutions. This means that respectful learners should prioritize supporting living traditional knowledge systems rather than treating traditional techniques as historical artifacts. With this foundation of respect and understanding, you're ready to take action and begin your own journey with traditional food preservation while ensuring that your learning contributes positively to the communities that maintain and share this invaluable knowledge. Your journey into traditional food mastery starts now. You've just discovered preservation techniques that sustained entire communities through the harshest conditions on Earth, techniques so effective that modern food scientists are still trying to understand their sophistication. The question isn't whether these methods work, it's whether you're ready to master them and transform your approach to food security forever. Your first traditional preservation project should begin with your next hunting season or meat purchase. Don't wait for perfect conditions or complete equipment. Start with a small-scale project using deer or elk meat, focusing on mastering the fundamental smoking principles you've learned today. Begin by sourcing your first materials. Identify local suppliers for appropriate game meat, locate traditional wood species in your area, and connect with craftspeople who can provide properly prepared hide. Many regions have indigenous-owned businesses that can supply authentic materials while supporting traditional knowledge keepers. Building your traditional preservation skills community. The most successful traditional preservation practitioners don't learn in isolation. They connect with communities of like-minded individuals who share knowledge, resources, and experiences. Join the growing community of people rediscovering the superiority of traditional food preservation methods. Local workshops and traditional skills gatherings provide hands-on learning opportunities that accelerate your skill development. Search for primitive skills groups, traditional food preservation workshops, and Indigenous Cultural Centre programs that offer authentic learning experiences. Online communities dedicated to traditional preservation techniques offer year-round support and knowledge sharing. Connect with experienced practitioners who can answer questions, share regional adaptations, and provide troubleshooting guidance for your preservation projects. Consider organising your own learning group within your community. Many people are interested in traditional preservation but don't know where to start. By initiating local study groups or workshop series, you create learning opportunities while building valuable skill-sharing networks. Expanding your traditional food knowledge. Traditional Cree preservation represents just one aspect of sophisticated indigenous food systems that offer incredible learning opportunities for modern food security challenges. Consider exploring related traditional techniques that complement preservation skills. Traditional hunting and processing methods provide essential knowledge for anyone serious about traditional preservation. Understanding how to properly field dress, butcher, and prepare game creates the foundation for successful preservation outcomes. Traditional foraging and plant food preservation offer seasonal food security techniques that complement meat preservation. Many regions offer workshops on traditional plant foods, seasonal harvest timing, and traditional preparation methods. Traditional cooking techniques for preserved foods help you maximize the nutritional and culinary value of your preservation efforts. Learning traditional recipes and preparation methods ensures you can enjoy the full benefits of traditional preservation. Making traditional preservation your food security foundation. Imagine opening your storage cache after 3 years and finding perfectly preserved meat that tastes fresh and provides complete nutrition. No electricity required, no chemical preservatives, no industrial processing. This food security independence becomes possible through mastering traditional preservation techniques. Emergency preparedness takes on new meaning when you possess preservation skills that work without modern infrastructure. Traditional techniques provide reliable food security that doesn't depend on supply chains, electricity, or industrial systems. Sustainable living goals align perfectly with traditional preservation methods that use renewable materials and require no fossil fuel inputs. Traditional techniques reduce dependence on industrial food systems while providing superior nutrition and flavour. Your heritage food preservation legacy. Every time you successfully preserve meat using traditional Cree techniques, you honour thousands of years of indigenous innovation while building skills that can feed your family for generations. You become part of a growing movement that recognises the superiority of traditional knowledge over modern industrial methods. Share your preservation successes with friends and family, demonstrating that traditional methods produce better results than modern alternatives. Your example inspires others to explore traditional knowledge and builds appreciation for indigenous innovation. Document your learning journey and preservation results, contributing to the growing body of evidence that traditional techniques outperform modern alternatives. Your experiences help validate traditional knowledge while encouraging others to begin their own traditional preservation journey. The future of food security is ancient wisdom. The Cree mastered food preservation for thousands of years, creating techniques so effective that modern science still can't replicate their results. Now it's your turn to carry their ingenious techniques forward into our modern food systems, ensuring that this invaluable knowledge continues to provide food security for future generations. Your traditional preservation journey begins with your very next meal planning decision. Choose to master techniques that have fed families for millennia, and join the growing community of people who understand that the future of food security lies in the wisdom of the past.